Click links, join channel here over at SubScribestar, the various other links. So Wonder Woman 3 and the Insane Hollywood Echo Chamber. This is a movie that's stuck in my mind because it's such a radical escalation in wokeism, particularly anti-white kind of just bizarre nonsense. It's Star Wars in 2015 and Ghostbusters in about the same time. Kind of caught everyone's attention. Ghostbusters wasn't even that bad exactly. It just wasn't good. But Star Wars was Disney in 2015 saying we're going to have a clear departure from earlier family-friendly Disney, where even if the movie wasn't not family friendly, the first the Disney Star Wars, it wasn't honoring the artist's original intention. So they were signaling that they were willing to make something with the name recognition of like a Peter Pan, and then what they would present you with would be their version of woke globalist propaganda, which is a problem because you're going to the theater and you're paying for that experience. And usually when you're paying for something, you want to get, Peter Pan or Star Wars, I kind of want to see the continuation of the original. No, we're gonna give you some kind of Bolshevik nonsense. So a Hollywood liberal does not understand why Wonder Woman 3 is not being made. She thinks it's crazy that Gal Gadot movie is not happening. Yeah, did you see the returns on the movie? So the short answer is the prior movie was a massive bomb, but that doesn't always doom a sequel. It depends on the environment, and if they know that the people involved in the movie learn from their mistakes. But that's not the case here with what's her name, Patty Jenkins. She appears to be in denial and just kind of insane. Gal Gadot, the perception is of her, especially with the events happening overseas, is that she is a baby deleting IDF. The superhero genre also isn't doing well, and girl power movies have been failing spectacularly lately. The two latest examples have been two massive failures. The Marvels with the girl with the milkers, and what was the movie before that? Brie Larson's sequel to Captain Marvel, where the first Captain Marvel did $1 billion. And the thing is, everyone knew that the sequel to Captain Marvel was going to fail because people didn't see that movie to see Brie Larson or to continue the storyline. They saw the first one because it was in between the two biggest movies in history. That's why it did $1 billion. And the Marvel kind of superhero genre was at an all-time high at that point. And, now you look back at those movies and goes, oh, really? Were any of them good movies? No, it was just a vibe that people were, like, everyone was seeing these superhero movies and talking about them online. But, like, Iron Man Part 1, the first one, I thought was a decent film. Other than that, they were not great. So so the sequel absolutely bombs because nobody cares about Brie Larson. Sorry, Brie Larson fans. If you use her name in the title, you at one time you would get either bots or legitimate fans who were just copy and pasting these long defenses about Brie Larson. I don't know if they do that anymore. She's probably off the radar by now. And also DC movies have been bombing lately. Actually, a lot of Hollywood movies have been bombing because they make woke cancer that the left-wing bleeding pussies on social media say they want, but they don't actually go to the theaters. Shazam 2, that's DC. And the Rock movie, Black Adam, that DC SS Squad Part 2 also bombed. So things are not looking good for the genre, at least. People don't watch diversity, equity, or feminism because it's cringy globalist propaganda where there's no suspension of disbelief because you have people doing things that don't follow the audience's expectations or natural law, which is what they expect. They're nothing more than a communist manipulative checklist. But it's become so heavy-handed that not even the commie coomer consumers are going to these commie Twitter kids are desperate to defend these multi-billion-dollar companies because they know that they're pushing, anti-whiteism, anti-nationalism, all kinds of just globalist nonsense. So you see these commie kids step in front of, no, don't criticize Disney. It's like, what happened to the left? Anyway, so they always say they like the idea of this Frankfurt School propaganda, but when it comes time to go to the theater or buy the comics or pay for it, they don't. That's why the future of the big screen is looking rough, because the people who talk about movies are saying they want this stuff, but they just don't spend the money on it or on the merchandise associated with it. So they're lying. That's like a long way of saying they're lying. Well, they're virtue signaling, which is a lie, but it's a different type of lie. They like to virtue signal on social media, but if you're in a business, you shouldn't care about the virtue signal. You should care about, well, where are people spending their money? And you look at those movies and go, oh, let's focus on those movies. That's not what Hollywood is all about. Hollywood is more akin to who's that guy in South America? Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid type. So why did Wonder Woman 2 bomb? First of all, the first one wasn't great, and people, I think, were saying it was great immediately after it came out. Now people have kind of dialed that down. You look at it and you go like, oh, it wasn't great. It was just kind of okay. But when you compared it to the rest of DC's struggling films in 2017, it was doing a whole lot better. It told, a coherent story, and it didn't. What was Suicide Squad Part 1? You got 40 minutes into the movie, and then it seemed to have the narrative restart, like reintroduce characters. It was bizarre. I turned to my friend and go, it felt like they switched directors halfway through and they just decided to restart the movie. The thing is, this movie, Wonder Woman Part 1, was just doing better, and it was a time when the Marvel was on top of the world, and there's the tide raising all boats. But the sequel was a woke bukkake fest. It was way too much female energy. It felt like they needed a man to guide them away from all the ridiculous type of estrogen stuff, because women in general don't make good directors. I'm trying to think. Another example was Elizabeth Banks in Charlie's Angels, where she literally said it's not a movie for men. It's like, oh, I thought it wasn't a male genre. I mean, that's not what I would say. If I would say, oh, this movie's for everyone, and then it bombs, and she goes, yeah, it bombed because men didn't see it. It's like, but you're literally in interviews saying it's like, you don't try to hold her accountable. So say you saw what happened with Matrix 4. They said there were women, and it absolutely bombed. So this movie was 2.5 hours of Patty Jenkins showing blonde people in every negative role imaginable. It was a woke checklist that felt like a woke checklist. And the opening scenes of the movies were these Greek gods, I guess, on an island somewhere, except they were black, Chinese, Indian, and in her case, Israeli, I guess vaguely Middle Eastern, except that's not how a tribe works. It's tempting just to call it developmentally disabled. Dear Patty Jenkins, a tribe is one group of people. Nobody cares about diversity, and that doesn't quite go far enough, because diversity and girl power is actually a negative. It drives the audience away. We know this and can say it, but Hollywood doesn't know this or doesn't want to know this. And for a Greek-based story, why don't you use Greek people in the movie? Or I thought representation mattered, or at least use European people. There's no tribe that has different races together. That just doesn't make sense. It's really tempting just to, swear a lot and use a bunch of slurs, because that's how dumb this stuff is. Blacks and Chinese are not Greek. That's all just insane that you have them on an island together. The willing suspension of disbelief doesn't go that far. And all they can say is, oh, you're istophobic. But you didn't add or subtract anything from the conversation. You didn't attack the point. You attacked the speaker. It's like, yes, that might be the case, or that might not be the case, but it doesn't change that people don't see this movie, because, oh, so you got blacks, Chinese, Greeks, and Jews all together on an island. How did they get there? I mean, why are you changing the mythology to make woke points? It's like, well, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, but the audience is just not on board with that. Just take one group of people, and it's a Greek myth. So just make them all to one group of people. Can you do that? Like, sir, you're asking the impossible. All you have to do is get rid of the diversity and you would have had a successful movie. Then the plot has them go to America where they're evil blonde men in a muscle car that drives recklessly through the downtown. Then evil blonde people litter a cigarette pack in the background of the shopping mall for some reason. Then evil blonde man kidnaps and holds a child hostage in a mall. Then they introduce the Brazilian, I guess, Mandalorian guy, I forget his name, and they want you to know that you should hate him, so they dye his hair blonde so he looks like Trump. Then Kristen Wiig is in her lap. She was in Ghostbusters as well. And evil blonde men walk by without helping her because, of course, they're blonde and she had dropped some papers, and she's just so, I guess, frumpy that if she's not a sexual object and she has no value to men whatsoever, and she's, I don't know, kind of awkward and annoying. Yeah, that makes sense. Then an evil blonde alcoholic harasses her, and the saintly homeless black guy has to rescue her because that's exactly what happens in cities. It's well-dressed blonde alcoholics in suit and ties who drink in public for some reason and don't get robbed and deleted by themselves and then attack women as they walk by, and then black homeless have to rescue them because that's what you see daily. You see the black homeless men are basically the alternative police force against blonde alcoholics in suits and ties. It's so stupidly anti-white that I don't know how it got past an editor, except the editor was also a woke left-wing nutjob who just thought this was brilliant. Then there's some evil blonde men trying to take over the world, and she borrows the body of someone, some guy, and struggle snuggles it. Uses it as her sexual plaything for a few weeks. And nobody in the editing room pointed out, oh, that's like without his consent. I mean, there's a word for doing that, a sexual battery without somebody's consent, right? Isn't there a word for that? Oh yeah. Oh, that's weird. Then the cat girl and the IDF girl have some silly fights, but Gadot is upset that she can't find more children's hospitals so she can burn kids alive. I guess that's how she gets her superpower. Then she defeats the two evil blonde characters because, of course, the non-Euro dark hair has to beat the blonde characters. Now, I know that sounds heavy-handed when I describe the movie, but watch it yourself, and it really is that bad. It's 2.5 hours. You're probably not going to get through it. And it bombed hard enough, and they didn't acknowledge where the mistakes were made, so they couldn't learn from it. So there's no reason to make part 3 and lose another $100 million. And even if you swapped out Gal Gadot, I don't know, she's 40 now or something, for a younger actress, this is just not, girl power movies are just not working. The two Marvel examples are great examples. And even Black Widow before that, I think that lost a little bit of money too. And now with DC or Warner Brothers, you have a new CEO in charge, Ziegler or something, who's interested in cutting this kind of financial dead weight and turning these movies around. And Patty Jenkins is not going to be the one to do that. And I think she was tied in with Disney and Marvel to do some Star Wars, not the Clone Wars, but something. She was going to do something, as well as Rian Roundhead Johnson was going to do something as well. And then suddenly these things are being pushed back, and effectively, like, they're not. It's just stuff's not going to happen because you look at the massive failure of Disney streaming and then Disney movies. The next movie is going to be with Daisy Ridley, and if that is a bomb, I wonder what Disney is going to do with Star Wars. Because you can't continue to contaminate the brand name, I don't think. And anyway, I was gonna say, like, you can't bring Wonder Woman back with a younger actor. Just nobody gives a shit about these movies anymore. I mean, they're like with Deadpool and Hugh Jackson, Hugh Grant, no, Hugh Jackson, and Ryan Reynolds. If I'm Marvel, I would keep those people making these movies that the audience has some connection to, that are profitable. And the thing is, if they did another movie with those two actors, they would woke it up somehow, because they just can't leave well enough alone, because they don't make movies to make art or even to make money. They make movies to make anti-white propaganda. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, she looks pretty good. You know, Troy and with Brad Pitt, and Gladiator with Russell Crowe. There was if I was Hollywood, I would be doubling down on those movies. But because they're period pieces, you can't make them. They probably would make them woke because they probably have like, well, there's a black slave who has to like lead the day or something, or it's like, you. And Devin Stack was pointing out that people's infatuation with the 80s and 90s really wasn't as good as people thought it was. But I mean, it's just in comparison to this, something like this. If Hollywood is still around in 40 years, say 20 years, they'll look at back in a movie like this and go, "This is ridiculous. What were you thinking?" It's like, well, it was a really woke time in America. That was before the Hollywood wars. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.